Now, the Underground is an icon of London and one of the most recognisable public transport systems in the world. So it goes without saying that if you have something set in London, you might well want to film on the Underground. Except the Underground is also one of the busiest public transport systems in the world, so it's impossible to shut a station down even for Hollywood. There are solutions. Sometimes you just build a set. That's what they did in Die Another Day and EastEnders. They also did it for the classic Doctor Who serial The Web of Fear, and the BBC did such a good job that London Transport complained they must have carried out some unauthorised filming on London Transport property. For most regular commuters, Robot Yetis wouldn't even make the top 10 of weirdest things they've seen on the tube. Alternatively, you can just use one of the stations Transport for London keeps for that purpose. There are many abandoned tube stations on the network, but most of them are on active lines. This makes them useless for filming, because there are trains zipping past every couple of minutes, and the lighting required is liable to distract drivers. The fantasy series Neverwhere used Down Street, but that was a rare exception. And in any case, most of that platform is walled off these days. There are two stations that are abandoned and not on active lines. The first is Aldwych. This is located on a stubby little branch of the Piccadilly line from Holborn. The reason it exists is complicated, and I am planning a fuller video on the subject later in the year. But suffice it to say that it was never a popular station, because you had to change trains at Holborn, and it was so close that you might as well walk. Closure came in 1994, but it was being used for filming even while it was operational, because it was only open to passengers during peak hours. It's very much a classic Edwardian tube station, so it gets used a lot for period pieces. It also posed as the Metropolis subway in the film Superman 4. Yep, that's definitely an American subway train there. Unmistakable. We also learn that among Superman's powers is the ability to shrink to tube gauge. TfL could, until recently, even provide a train that was parked in the tunnel. But that was recently scrapped to provide spares for the ancient 1972 stock on the Bakerloo line. Now, if I listed everything that had been filmed down there, we'd be here all night, but if you see something set on the Underground and the station looks kind of old, it's probably Aldwych. If you want something newer, there's Charing Cross, or specifically the Jubilee line platforms at Charing Cross. As with Aldwych, these are located on a stubby little branch line which came about by accident. When the Jubilee line was opened in 1979, it terminated here. The intention was to continue through the City of London and out to the Docklands. Actually, Aldwych would have been one of the stations on the extension. But when the extension was built, it was to be partially paid for by the developers at Canary Wharf, and they wanted the extension to go through Waterloo. The only way that could be done was by abandoning the branch to Charing Cross, and so there is a 70s-style set of platforms down there. Consequently, this one is preferred when a more modern station is called for. Note these very convincing but entirely fake adverts. Skyfall and Thor 2: The Dark World both had scenes filmed here. It doubled for the New York subway in Morbius, one of the movies of all time. Hold on, Morbius? Thor 2, Superman 4... What I'm getting from all this is that if a superhero movie is filmed on the Underground, it's probably bad. The Batman used an abandoned rail tunnel, but not an underground tunnel. Bruce Wayne reaches the Batcave via the abandoned tram tunnel on Kingsway in Holborn. It was also used in The Avengers, not the Marvel one, the one where Ralph Fiennes and Uma Thurman play Patrick Macnee and Diana Rigg. And in the film The Escapist, it actually did double as a tube station. Another option is the Waterloo and City line. This used to be closed on Sundays and public holidays, and these days it's closed on Saturdays as well, thank you the pandemic. It was perhaps most prominently used in the film Sliding Doors, when the trains were still painted in their distinctive blue livery. I've never seen that film, but Gwyneth Paltrow's character pushes the doors open when the train is about to leave, so I presume she's the villain. If you don't need the actual platforms, you have more options. Paddington used the escalators at St John's Wood and the station building at Maida Vale. Ironically, I don't think it used the tube station at Paddington. An American Werewolf in London used Tottenham Court Road and Charing Cross. The Underground has even doubled for Deep Space. Canary Wharf on the Jubilee line appeared very briefly in Rogue One. I guess the Jubilee line extension's brutalist architecture just screams evil galactic empire. I rather like it myself, even if the moody lighting means it's a little on the dark side. If you just need a train, you have plenty of options. The London Transport Museum has many trains in its collection from many different eras. There's even an operational 1938 stock tube train. At Walthamstow Pump House Museum, they have a pair of 1967 stock carriages, ex-Victoria line. And these do look reasonably modern. Enough to fool the casual viewer at least. Simulating a train running through a tunnel can be achieved using special effects magic, i.e. throw a black sheet over the windows and have the actors bounce about a bit. There's one other abandoned section of the tube that's still usable, and that's the Epping-Ongar line. This was part of the Central Line until 1994. But it was built by the Great Eastern Railway, so ironically it doesn't actually look like the Underground. However, just because it doesn't look like the Underground doesn't mean it can't be used for other railway locations. It appeared in the film How to Stop Being a Loser, which I'd never heard of until I wrote this script, as well as several adverts and music videos. The railway also got in a bit of hot water a few years back when it turned out that a film of a, shall we say, adult nature was filmed there. There was a lot of outrage over it, but given that it's not something the railway exactly advertises, I take the view that it's fairly harmless. As long as they gave everything a good clean afterwards, I don't see the problem. So there you go. With a bit of movie magic, you can turn a disused underground station into anywhere from London to New York to the worlds of the imagination. Well, I hope you enjoyed this cinematic tale from the tube. If so, please do leave a like and consider subscribing for more. I would like as ever to thank my donors on Ko-fi, on Patreon, and here on YouTube for your generous support. You are the fake adverts to my abandoned platforms. And I'll see you all again very soon. Cheerio.